Hi, it's Tacticus again, bringing you my guide to the newest legendary release event, where you'll hopefully be able to unlock Lucius the Eternal, the newest chaos character in game, and a pretty powerful one at that in my opinion. If you'd like to see what Lucius does and why I think he's so great, you can have a look at him by clicking at an eye in the top right corner. I'll do a very short overview on how these events work, look at this event in general, and then go track for track to analyze their requirements. I'll then go into recommended teams, important fighters, and a proposition on in which order to tackle the fights in this event. The event, as all legendary release events, is active for a week. You start with 6 tokens and get a token every 3 hours, as well as a free one every day for watching an ad. You can't access the last token as the event ends at the same time, so you will have 68 tokens available total. By accruing points over the event, you get payouts of the event currency, which this time is called Twisted Symbols. Those can be spent on chests containing the shards of the character that is featured. A chain of 10 event missions will also give you 25 event currency each, which pushes down how many points you're required to have. If you don't manage to get enough points in the first event, don't worry. There'll be 3 events total, set over several months to get your hands on the character. The mission chain will repeat and push you closer to your goal, and you'll have become stronger by then. All other progress is saved, so no repeating of the easy battles. A set amount of points is awarded for winning a battle, and there are 5 restrictions available for each of 3 tracks: Alpha, Beta and Gamma. Each track is themed around a certain faction of enemies, and you can't use the alliance that enemy belongs to in your fights. For each restriction you adhere to while winning a fight, you will get the appropriate points. You can also get points for just killing enemies. There's 1 point per enemy defeated, and a high score giving you exactly as many points total, as your high score for killing enemies in that mission is. Going into a fight, even if you can't manage to do a restriction, will still give you valuable points, even if you can't win. That doesn't change though that the restrictions will give you a ton of points, and that we are on a limited token budget, so we should try to finish as many as we can in 1 token. We want 12,500 points to unlock a character in the first event, roughly 183 points per token, and that will be hard. Not everyone needs to get Lucius first try, and even if you are still developing your roster, you can make meaningful progress towards the next event. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet and want the broad set of videos I do on the game, from covering news, inspecting the in-game systems to help you min-max, or beginner videos, I'd love if you do so. You can also help me in-game by using my referral code BAD60ADO and earn yourself 100 Blackstone in the process, as well as various rewards for me depending on which level milestones you reach. When first looking at the event, there are some anomalies that hit the eye. There are 2 tracks that feature Xenos enemies, Alpha with the Eldari and Beta with the Tyranids, this time thankfully without their cultist friends. In the Beta track, you'll still be forbidden from using Chaos as always, but you will also be barred from using Tyranids. This strikes me as odd, as phasing out a single faction hasn't happened so far, and the implications worry me. By removing an important faction from the mix, you can hamper players' attempts to do runs a lot. The restrictions have steadily grown harder as the player base's power has grown to keep legendary events and game content. I think it works, and we have more characters to work with by now, so a certain balancing has to happen. Looking at cutting Tyranids, that doesn't hurt too much, as most Tyranids aren't that good in legendary events anyways and are only taken to fit the restrictions. One exception, the Tyrant Guard, will hurt though, as its omission as a staple of the Pierce team in the Beta tracks takes away one of the core characters of a team that has often been used. I go track by track now, showing you the track's restrictions, enemies, and possible combinations you could use to save some tokens. As people have positively taken to me including info for less developed rosters before, I'll include team propositions for people that have no legendary characters at all, as you have to be really lucky to get some, and really patient to get others. I'll also include a segment on not having legendary characters and not any requisition only characters, as not every viewer will have every character of course. Even saying all this, of course your mileage will vary tremendously by which character you have built. A team I say is wonky might be great if you have all the characters at Diamond 3, and a team I deem great might be pretty bad if they are all Stone 1. Which fighters do we generally prefer? Above all, in such a long game mode, we need healers and mechanics to keep our units in good shape. Summoners not only help us avoid damage by having their summons sponged up, but also gives us help to dispatch the enemies quicker. Summoners that can get a lot of friends on the field, like Apraxas, or that can continually summon, more like Snotflogger, are preferred. I'm not even counting Shadow Sun as one, as their only summon can't move, and it's only a single throne. Thirdly, tanks are good pairing with healers to block off the enemy's access to the more frail fighters and tank the hits to be easily healed next round. As we're dealing with waves of enemies, I'll of course also favor characters that can defeat multiple enemies around, like Maladus or Lucian, and I'll also mention Vindicta here, not only for her ability to do just that, but also because her flames can effectively block the enemy's path and buy you valuable time. Whether we'll be able to pick those extra valuable fighters or have to concentrate on the restrictions first will depend on the restrictions at hand though. That out of the way, let's start with the Alpha track. Alpha lets you face the otherworldly Eldari. It lets you use a total of 65 characters from the Imperial and Chaos faction. A quick word on numbers, I will count Atlacoya and Karian as available, as they are out by the time this event starts, but won't count Lucius, as I think only a small amount of players will unlock him, and they don't need him in any case. The Eldar have their normal basic array of enemies. Guardians, cowardly fighters that will move away after being attacked and that can hurt your fighters that huddle together with their plasma grenades. Warlocks, seers that can make their pointy-eared friends do more damage against fighters they target with their active, and that suppress the battle fatigue that makes it possible for the Guardians to flee when their friends are killed, and reduces ranged hits against themselves and other fighters in 2 hexes. Then there's Harlequin players, enemies not stopped by fire, barbed wire or overwatch, that will face closer when they are hit by your attacks, and that will hurt you most vulnerable fighters by somersaulting over groups of your characters and dealing damage to them. They are especially feared as the tried and tested strategy of turtling, hiding a healer behind a wall of tanks, doesn't work well against them, and their block and damage reduction chance can make attempts to kill them fickle. As they will only do their active once, removing the warlocks will be your most important task, so that at least the Guardians can flee. Blocking of spawn points will not work as well in this track, as the Harlequins will just leap over you. From Battle 6 on, Wraith Guard join the Eldar. Those hated enemies feature Overwatch, protecting their allies around them by being a big target, can shoot back at you and their shots will pierce through your fighters, hitting a second one for direct damage, doing a lot more harm to the fighter in the second row. Suffice to say, turtling in this track will be quite hard to do, and those things need to be dispatched as soon as possible. Completing a battle for the first time gives you 40 points, and there's anywhere from 25 to 49 enemy fighters, so all in all you can make from 90 to 138 points even if ignoring the restrictions. The restrictions are minimum 4 hits for 45 points, no bolter for 60 points, Black Legion for 90 points, flying for 90 points, and bolter for 95 points. No bolter has the most characters out of all of those, with 51 fighters, including mechanics, summoners and healers. I denoted those for each requirement with an M for mechanics, an S for summoners and an H for healers. Bolter and no bolter mutually exclude each other, and the Black Legion trait only applies to 5 characters, which makes for a rough start. Especially as they aren't as excellent as the orc-only requirement in Dante's event was. Let's have a look at combinations. Bolter has no feasible combinations at all. At 95 points it's decent, but it will always have to go alone. There is this time also a triple combination possible with no bolter, Black Legion and minimum 4 hits. It's only 3 characters, Haken, Folk and Angrax at that, from which only Angrax has my full confidence, but it's 195 points at once, which is fantastic. Even only doing 1 or 2 battles with those 3 would be quite the time saver. It would mean that Bolter and Flying have to go alone, so it's 3 tokens together. It won't carry us far, so let's have a look at further combinations. No Bolter and Flying will give 150 points, which is nice and has a decent 8 characters at that. Combining Black Legion and minimum 4 hits, while possible, will yield the same characters as including no Bolter does, and that team will have run its course by the time we switch, so I have to conclude that we need to do all other 3 restrictions alone for 4 tokens total. That's bad. Continuing on, Flying and minimum 4 hits only works for 3 characters and is only 135 points. You'll probably skip that. All other 3 have to stay alone again. Having one restriction not combine at all with the others, and one that is as narrow as a single faction, really hurts. Lastly, no Bolter and 4 hits at 105 points barely breaks the bank. There's single requirements worth that much. It does however feature 15 characters and could get you far enough when all other requirements fail, but will leave us stranded with 4 tokens used again. With this, we get the following chart. We start at the top and use the green combinations first. If that team doesn't work anymore, we can go down to the next tier and so on, until you can't progress anymore. From then on, it's a matter of how far you came. So far, you've netted the requirement points as well as the kill points and completion bonus. You have basically 3 choices. Going back and filling out the leftover requirements. This will net you 90 to 95 points for the higher ones, which is still worthwhile. If you feel confident in one of those single requirements, they do have more characters than the combinations after all, you can try to advance with either of them, which will still be worth good points, and I'd recommend that. Lastly, if you cannot meet any of the requirements, but are confident that a mixed team would accomplish a win, you should look at the amount of enemies in the next fight. Take that amount times 2 and add 40 points. That's the points you can expect. Is it more than taking out a single requirement you left over? Great. You'll technically advance the points faster by just going up. There's of course some opportunity cost lost. If you develop your roster further, you could potentially use a single token next time the event comes around and get a kill bonus, while additionally scoring a requirement, in the process saving 1 token. I leave that up to you though. Depending on your game state, you might not even get to that decision. 68 tokens is a lot, and we have 2 more tracks to cover. Beta sees us face the Tyranids and forbids us from using Chaos and Tyranids themselves. At least there's no Genestealer cultists this time. The standard Tyranid enemies appear, Ripper Swarms, Termagants and Hormagons. Not much to say on all of those, other than that the Ripper Swarms need multiple hits to dispatch and can be annoying, but they don't deal a lot of damage. All 3 of those life forms get stronger when near their friends. All of them always attack the closest enemy, and, best of all of them are beholden to battle fatigue, meaning that they'll have a chance to run away when an adjacent Tyranid dies. Use that to your advantage and always kill Tyranids that have the most neighbors. From Battle 4 on, there's also Barb Gaunts. They do a lot of damage, slow down your fighters, and can choose their target with their 3 range attacks. Kill on sight, they will trigger the others' battle fatigue still, but can't run on their own. Their ability to snipe vulnerable fighters as healers will decimate you if you don't dispatch them. From Battle 5 on, Spore Mines enter the mix. They will float to the nearest fighter and explode, only dealing damage to your fighters though. If they're killed, they also explode unless you overkill them. So you either need to be very sure to be able to overkill them, look for the little cracked skull while attacking, or better shoot them. If you can manage to just kill them, it can trigger a chain, as all spawn mines adjacent to an exploded one will also explode. Battle 6 introduces the final life form you'll face, the Tyranid warriors. Since their synapse lets nearby Tyranids ignore battle fatigue, and their big target protects them, they need to go. Every second round they'll have increased armor, so attack them preferably when they don't. Yes, I basically said kill everything. The advice in short would be go from big to small life forms. Looking at the battles, you get 34 points for completing them, combined with a maximum kill point bonus reaching from 54 to 112. The restrictions are physical for 45 points, piercing for 65 points, maximum 2 hits for 75 points, heavy weapon for 95 points, and unstoppable for again 95 points. The last two give good points, but only have 7 fighters each, and the one with the most fighters is unsurprisingly maximum 2 hits at 31. Having piercing go from 95 points in most events to 65 points and missing the Tyrant Guard might be hard. Looking at the combinations, there's not that many. Unstoppable will have to go alone, as there's no combinations possible. Maximum 2 hits, physical and heavy weapon are our only triple requirement for a tasty 215 points, but only 3 fighters: Calandis, Sarkael and Certus. We should probably start with that. Since no quadruple requirements are ever possible, and since there's the standalone Unstoppable, no fight, no matter the combination, will ever be possible with fewer than 3 tokens. As soon as the triple doesn't work anymore, we can still do piercing at max 2 hits, with 4 characters for 140 points, which actually combines well with the heavy weapon and physical requirement for 5 characters for the same amount. I'd say go for whatever works better for you to claim with the kill points first, and if you can later come back to do the other combination, 140 points is still a lot. The last of the possible combinations is physical and maximum 2 hits, with a luxury 9 characters overlap but only 120 points. This could still carry you a good bit after the other options are exhausted, so I don't feel bad about it. Afterwards is again the question of climbing with single requirements, cleaning up the tasty Unstoppable from the beginning, or reaching for kill points by advancing. The last track, Gamma, sees us fight the Ultramarines and Astra Militarum with 50 characters of the Xenos and Chaos alliances at our disposal. The guardsmen and all their machinery have battle fatigue, so killing enemies with a lot of them around should be worthwhile. The last cannons and mortar teams will either have to attack you in melee or do reduced damage when you're standing next to them, so whenever you can rush a spawn point with your fighters and either block it completely or make sure that those at least do decrease damage, that's worthwhile generally. Fighters with a lot of summons like Snotflogger or Apraxas can truly shine doing that. If you have the option, try to kill the Voxcasters first to not be swallowed by a tide of bodies. The summoned guardsmen aren't all that bad though, as they're generally weaker and will still trigger their comrades' battle fatigue when killed. The Ultramarines bring Inceptors to the table, which will survive a lot of punishment and fly wherever you don't want to have them. Try to avoid giving them a high ground position to attack. Eliminators will take a lot of damage and are sometimes hard to maneuver around due to their overwatch. Try to soak that up with a tank before rushing forward to kill them. Heavy intercessors combine the resilience of the Inceptors with the heavy damage of the Eliminators. The impressive range of 3 combined with shooting twice when they didn't move will prove problematic, especially if they hide behind a wall of guardsmen, so try to get up in their face if you can. The Space Marines are additionally reinforced by the Black Templars, lending them their neophytes and initiates. The initiates may have the ability to run away after they attack to free the space for their allies, but in a combination with the guardsmen, you get swamped so fast that will not come up as often. It might bode ill for the close combat weakness though, as they rush forward that fast. The neophytes do a ton of damage, but sport rather bad defenses. Killing them soon seems sensible. Again, one where say kill everything special. You can ignore the slew of basic guardsmen, they probably be collateral by fleeing. Remember, not every special unit is on screen all at once. And man, this track is going to give us some grief. We get a completion bonus of 32 and kill points ranging from 62 to 108. The restrictions are no power for 35 points, and since there's still 41 characters possible, it is pretty much a non-issue. It removes Rotbone from the mix though, which is the most important restriction here. Physical gives 60 points in this track, and with only 9 characters is harder to boot than in beta. Psychic is 80 points, minimum 5 hits 95, and close combat weakness is a whopping 105 points, but only sports 5 characters. All Tau but Onshi and the Neurotrope. Somehow it doesn't really fit the team and there's no synergy with it. This is truly a weird one. The other restrictions also have 9 or 10 characters, so of course finding overlap will be a hard task. And would you look at that, no power combines unsurprisingly with everything, and only really restricts minimum 5 hits, which still retains 5 characters, and there's no overlap whatsoever between any other restrictions. So the course forward is to just combine the highest one that still works with no power, and then advance forward as fast as we can. The other 3 will always stay on their own, and you'll need 4 tokens per battle no matter what. The close combat weakness no power combination is even only 140 points, which for how hard it is, isn't even that much. When no combinations work anymore, you can try going forward with no power alone or minimum 5 hits with Rotbone, which might have some legs at least 95 points. Then it becomes a matter of checking whether kill points will get you further, or you're better off just going for some easier fights with restrictions you left out. This track will prove difficult. Now let's compile that for all the tracks so far. I looked up how many characters were available for which restriction and had a look around on which ones were impossible without legendaries and requisition only characters. There's not too much of a change really. You can pause the screen when I scroll through, but I'll highlight the team for the most worthwhile combinations in the next segment. The only one that becomes unavailable is the wonky flying minimum 4 hits combination in Alpha, which goes from Haken, Dante and Bellator to 2 characters only and falls away for the less complete rosters. Everything else is still doable. Sometimes you'll of course be at a disadvantage, and you'll have to stop using the roster earlier and progress to the next step, but for a lot of requirements it doesn't make a huge difference if you don't have those hard to get characters, which is definitely a good thing. More choice is always good, but not disadvantaging players that just didn't have luck is a good policy. Putting all of those together, we get the following top 20 of using your tokens on restrictions. If at any point you feel like you won't be able to do another battle with the team at hand, just go one step down and try to fight that one instead. Skip every point you don't have the strength or characters for. When you later have to go completing requirements for battles, ask yourself whether you want steady progress, or rather have more points in this one event, trying to aim high for the unlock. Doing stuff you skipped will in the long run save tokens and will be the safer option. But if the number of enemies times 2 plus the completion bonus is higher than the leftover restrictions, you could get more points now by going for that. Of course, jumping between tracks to fulfill the missions quicker is a valid option. I'll provide a cheat sheet closer to the event where you can tick off what you've done already and write a note on whether it was a close fight or whether you think you can go another one with that restriction, so you don't forget and go into a losing battle, as happened to me previously. Start with better physical, maximum 2 hits, heavy weapon. This combination only features Galandis, Certus and Sarkael, no matter your roster, but is worth 215 points. Afterwards, go to the Alpha track for Black Legion, no bolter, 4 hits, which will need Harken, Folk and Angrax for 195 points. I missed the triple restrictions with Orcs somehow. Then it's continuing Alpha from there, with no bolter, flying for 150 points. While I'll use Harken, Mataneo, Celestine, Ahriman and Tamachos for the Chaos Shield, teams without legendaries will have to use Harken, Tamachos, Mataneo, Actus and Yazagor, and teams without requisition characters will have to additionally drop Mataneo. Number 4 is better with Heavy Weapon Physical for 140 points and Calandis, Certus, Sakael, Vindicta and Cyjax. Filling later, or if those characters are better for you, you can alternatively go Piercing max 2 hits for the same yield with Show, Calandis, Eltrion and Incisus. Our next step will be the first foray into Gamma with Close Combat Weakness and no power coming in at 140 points. The team is Rivas, Show, Darkstrider, Neurotrope and Shadow Sun, dropping Shadow Sun for shallower rosters. Back to Alpha and continuing upwards with flying minimum 4 hits with Harken, Dante and Bellator. This is only possible if you have Dante, but Bellator's summons could potentially get you 1 or 2 battles further ahead for 135 points. Then it's back to Gamma with minimum 5 hits and no power for a decent 130 points. Revas, the Patermine, Immuspec, Aleph and the Winged Prime bring a decent amount of summons. Dropping the Patermine for early rosters isn't the worst thing in the world, other than the handicap of only using 4 characters. Physical maximum 2 hits in beta has a decent roster of 9 characters, allowing for Calandis, Mataneo, Sakael, and Makotep and Tan. Those two could work great together to trigger the Skitarii again once per battle, and the healing and no armor buff benefits they give each other, even if Makotep is subpar otherwise. Without requisition characters, I will exchange Mataneo for Varro. A sad trade. In 10th place is Gamma, Psychic no power and Apraxas, Yazagor, Akimatos, Xibia and Taumachos bring enough protection and summons that they could go a few levels, exchanging Xibia for Eltrion if you don't have her. I'm quickly going to mention Alpha no bolter 4 hits for 105 points and 16 characters, which allows you to take Rodbone, Angrax, Rask, Karn and Forkras for a good defensive core and plenty of killing power. Karn can be exchanged with Toth and Forkras with Harken. From then on it's going forward with single restrictions mostly. Close Combat Weakness would be next, but you will already have gotten as far as you can with the combinations with no power. So it's basically the best cleaning up you can still do, but the high price single restrictions will give you more points if you can advance the tracks and earn kill points while doing them. The order will be Alpha Bolter, Beta Unstoppable, Beta Heavy Weapon, Gamma minimum 5 hits, Gamma Physical no power, Alpha Flying, Alpha Black Legion, Gamma Psychic, and Beta Piercing. From there on, it's stuff 65 points and under, but some of the restrictions are rather loose and will allow you to get further in the tracks. There are Beta Piercing, Alpha no bolter, Gamma Physical, Alpha min 4 hits, Beta Physical and Gamma no power left. If you've exhausted all your options, you'll have to go for kill points. Who to prepare? It can never hurt to prepare the usual dream couples of Rivas and Aleph, Bellator, Burkhardt and Isabella, Tan and Actus, and Rodbone and Maladus to be able to ascend in kill points if every restriction fails. Those will benefit you in every legendary event and are quite valuable. For this event specifically, the Black Legion requirement is quite strict, and Angrax is a valuable character for multiple reasons, so he seems important. Haken combines this with flying, which sees him pop up often. He got a rework and is slightly better now, so you can give him some love. Calandis equally comes up regularly in the Gamma track, and her overwatch and attack before being hit are qualities I like, but she's too frail really for the mode. If you haven't invested in her at all, it can't hurt to push her until she can take a hit though. Choosing the new Genestealer vs Tau campaign event before the legendary event will be important if you're missing Revas or Shozil. Sho being a good character in those kind of events in any case, as his drones protect him and can kill multiple enemies a turn. I leave you with those impressions, as there's certainly more characters you could invest in, and that will come up often in this event, but those really hit my eye. Which characters do you think will be invaluable in this event and should be pushed beforehand? That's it. An exhaustive look at the Lucius legendary event. While not looking much worse than other events we've had, the difficulty is slowly rising. The Eldari will be a menace if their Wraith Guard and triple restrictions are existent but very narrow. Including a faction in the Black Legion before all of their characters have had their rework could handicap the narrow restrictions further. The omission of good combinations at all in Gamma, combined with the huge amount of different specialized enemies, will also prove to be hard to overcome. Credit where credit is due, not having luck-dependent characters doesn't hamstring one too much. Do you think you will be able to get Lucius in the first event? Where's your roster at? Let me know in the comments. If you're not subscribed yet, but sat through the whole thing, I think you liked it enough to treat yourselves and subscribe so you will know when my next video comes out. On screen I've linked you my thoughts on how a perfect roster could look and the video the algorithm has picked. Have a nice day and I'll see you in the next one.